and 2. Grade 12 Economics. Good afternoon. My name is Mr. Mhlongo. Back here with you today. This lesson is brought to you by Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Phakama Research. We are together again on a revision session on our paper 2. Remember, last week we covered paper 1, part of revision, and today we are back again working on paper 2. Remember that our paper 2 consists of microeconomics and contemporary economic issues. Please join me. Let's see what I have in the pocket. So the following are the lesson objectives that will be achieved during the course of this lesson. This is mainly a revision session for paper 2. There's no new content. Everything that will be covered here as a part of revision has been covered before as a content in your classroom. Today we are giving you a part of examination training, the structure and the layout of the question paper, which is paper 2, as well as some examples on how questions are asked in the examination and how you are expected to respond. The following are the very much important dates for you in economics for the academic year of 2020. For our final examination, we have economics paper 1, which will be written on the 12th of November 2024 as a second session. That means some of you will be sitting for some examination papers in the morning, which will be starting from 9. But in the afternoon, you will have to sit for economics paper 1 on the 12th of November. And then the second part of this date is economics paper 2 on the 19th of November. Second session again, meaning our papers this year are both in second session. Some of you will be writing in the morning, and then in the afternoon, you'll be sitting for economics paper 2. Very important that you start preparing for this examination so that you prevent a congested schedule to affect your performance. This is the structure of the question paper or of our question papers in economics. We have seen this before, and I will always remind you until the last day of exam. Remember, our paper 1, 2 hours, and then we have your macroeconomics, which is here, and your economic pursuits. But today our focus is on our paper 2, which is also 2 hours. So the main topics are with microeconomics. Under microeconomics, we have perfect markets, imperfect markets, as well as the market failure. And then we also have contemporary economic issues here. And the main topic again, where we come across inflation, tourism, and environmental sustainability. So if you prepare for your paper 2, your focus area is on this column. This is your paper 2. So details on the question paper are as follows. Our paper, which is paper 2, carries 150 marks, and the duration is 2 hours. Meaning you must be very much efficient to ensure that you answer all questions that you should be answering based on instructions within 2 hours. Unless if we have special concessions, then that will favor you to ensure that you are able to complete everything. But the 2 hours alone is enough for you to complete this question paper. You just have to be efficient. And then each paper comprises of 6 questions divided into 3 sections. Remember, we have section A, section B, section C. Section A is question 1, which is compulsory. So we must all answer question 1, which is our section A, out of 30 marks. Then section B consists of 3 questions. Our section B has question 2, question 3, and question 4. Remember, our question 2, as for paper 2, is our microeconomics. The question 3 is contemporary economic issues. And the question 4 is the mixture of both microeconomics and contemporary economic issues. So questions from question 2 to question 4, of which the candidate must choose only 2. So you are required to choose 2. You must not answer all questions in section B. You are given 3 questions, you answer only 2 of them. Section C consists of 2 questions, namely question 5 and question 6. Our question 5 is microeconomics, so it will be an essay under microeconomics. Then our question 6 will be an essay under contemporary economic issues. You have to choose one question to answer. You don't answer them both between question 5 and question 6. So how are topics distributed across the question paper? The question 1 is 30 marks. So in there you come across microeconomics topics as well as economic issues topics. In our question 2, which is section B, we have 40 marks. Within these 40 marks, we only have the microeconomics, which is perfect market, imperfect market, as well as the market failure. And then our question 3 is only contemporary economic issues. We come across inflation, tourism, and environmental sustainability. In our question 4, we have the combination of both microeconomics and contemporary economic issues. So that means you have perfect markets, imperfect markets, and market failure going together with inflation, tourism, and environmental sustainability. And then we have the question 5. In our question 5, we have 40 marks that we work for, which is an essay section C. It's only microeconomics. So if you want to answer the question 5, must ensure that you are fully informed about all essays of microeconomics. Then question 6, which is 40 marks, contemporary economic issues. You need to ensure that you are fully informed about essays under contemporary economic issues. All of them will be given to you so that you know which ones belong to micro and which ones belong to economic issues. So this is our section A layout. Section A, remember, is compulsory as question 1. We have multiple choice, which consists, with 4 possible options per main topic, 8 items, 2 marks per item. So that gives you 16 marks. So each answer there you get correct or wrong will be 2 marks for you. So if you get it wrong, you forfeit 2 marks. You get it right, you get 2 marks. And then matching items 1.2, that's when you are given column A and column B. Very important for you to be aware that this part of this section A, you must be able to use elimination method. So that without get those answers correct, and then try to make relations to those that you are not sure they are correct until you get them right. You have 8 items given, and then each item is 1 mark. Then you get your 8 marks. This gives you the 24 marks together. And then we have our 1.3 where you give the 10. So in there, we are giving definitions, must provide the correct concept in the correct term. Remember that in this part of section A, abbreviations are not allowed, acronyms are not allowed. Also, you only provide one correct answer. You don't give options to the marker. You don't say maybe the answer can be balance of payments or gross domestic product. You give one answer, don't give options to the marker. So in this situation, each answer is 6 marks. We are giving 6 items, and then each item is 1 mark. Then you get your 6, which gives you 30 marks. It's very important for you to know that this 30 marks is very important for you, so that you will be able to get that confidence as you go to section B and section C. Good thing about this examination is that you have the right to start with any section of your own. You can start with section C, you can start with section A, you can start with section B. It's up to you, as long as you number all questions that are provided to you according to the question B. So the following are the examples of microeconomics. So let's see what we have in this situation. We start with the lower order questions. Remember, the lower order questions in this situation, that's why you have to give, mention, name, or list. So they don't require you to discuss anything. You just remember and provide the correct answer. For instance, these are the examples. Name any 2 objectives of anti-monopoly policies. So remember, it is very important for you also to know if we talk about the anti-monopoly policy. So we say there should be no barriers to entry. Remember, once there are barriers to entry, that means the business has a power to be the only supplier of a product if ever it is protected by some barriers to entry. So before everything, remember, you must know the monopoly. The monopoly is the market structure that exists when there's one seller in the market and many buyers. So if we are if we are against monopolies, there should be no barriers to entry within the market. So meaning firms must be free to enter the market at any time they want. And then curb the economic power. Firms that are existing must not have that much economic power for the entire market, because that will lead to other firms not getting an opportunity to enter the market and compete. Business had to become competitive. If ever we are against monopoly, firms must be able to compete with one another. Even we must have what we call many goods being produced in the market with competitive prices, not having only one price being determined by the particular business. So if we are dealing with anti-monopoly, we are against monopolies, one firm to be competitive in the market. And then also new trade agreements. So there should be trade agreements that are existing within the market. And then the second one, mention any 2 objectives of commission policy. So remember, if we talk about the Commission Policy Act of South Africa, we refer to the policies that were established or formed to promote fair and healthy competition in South Africa, ensuring that businesses are not abusing their power, monopolies are not abusing their power, including oligopolies, ensuring that there are no collusive or anti-competitive practices within the economy. So we are looking for objectives. We have about 8 of them, objectives to prevent monopolies from abusing their power, and then also to regulate formation of mergers and acquisitions who wish to exercise market power. To stop firms from using restrictive practices like fixing prices, dividing market. Then we continue. Give 2 examples of explicit cost. Remember, if we talk about the explicit cost, we refer to the cost that are deliberated within the particular business. They are the part of operating cost. They are not hidden. They are known by business, by individuals within the business. So let's look at them. We talk about the rent. If we are working for the particular business, we are fully aware that how much the rent that is paid, the interest as well as the wages are the part of the explicit cost. Remember, if you know explicit cost, remember you have the opposite, which is implicit cost. Those are part of the cost that cannot be known by everyone within the particular business. So keep it in your mind that if you have explicit, you have your implicit opposite. give any two examples of fixed cost. In your mind, it is ringing that, okay, if there is a fixed cost, there's also a variable cost. So let's check example. Remember, fixed costs are the costs that do not change with the output. It doesn't matter how much is produced today, but the cost will remain the same because these costs are the costs that are signed on the lease agreement. They remain constant for the given period of time. For instance, we talk about the rent, we talk about administrative, we talk about insurance, depreciation, salaries, interest on capital, as well as property taxes. And then we continue on section B, lower order. Name any two bodies responsible for regulating competition in South Africa. Remember, in this situation, we are still under Competition Policy Act of South Africa. There are indeed three bodies that were formed by Competition Policy Act to promote healthy and fair competition within the market. Those include the Competition Commission, the Competition Tribunal, as well as the Competition Appeals Court. So it is very important for you to be able to list them in the lower order, discuss them in the middle order, and also evaluate their success in the higher order. The same question. Like if we talk about the commission, we refer to the commission or the body of competition that investigate or does the primary investigation on alleged restrictive practices. They discover their findings and then they suggest the finding and transfer all of those to the competition tribunal. And then the competition tribunal is the body of competition that works to do what? To impose final fines to businesses that are found guilty of misconduct within the market. And then we have Competition Appeals Court, which is the board of Competition Policy Act that acts as a High Court of Competition in South Africa by reviewing decisions taken by the Competition Tribunal. If ever the firm is unhappy with allegations or findings of fine, it has a power or a right to appeal the decision or charges to the Competition Appeals Court so that it can be reviewed to see if the firm is indeed guilty or not guilty of misconduct. So we talk about the Competition Commission, then also the Commission Tribunal, as well as the Commission Appeals Court. You can come across the question saying, evaluate the success of commission bodies in South Africa. Has they been successful or not? Remember, that's a part of Commission Policy Act of South Africa. There is a part of success, there's a part of failure. So it is very important for you as a candidate to be able to answer this kind of the question, because if you have to evaluate, you are looking for the good and the bad. So in that situation, you must indicate the good side, or which is a success, and the bad side, which is a part of failure. We will have the question on this along our presentation, where it will be clearly answered. Mention two types of oligopolies. So indeed, we have two types of oligopolies, which include, firstly, we have the pure oligopoly, and then we have differentiated oligopoly. If we talk about the pure oligopoly, we refer to oligopolies that produce homogeneous products. If we talk about differentiated oligopoly, we mean oligopolies that produce differentiated products. Remember, product produced by oligopolies can be homogeneous under pure oligopoly, can be differentiated under differentiated oligopoly. Remember that if we talk about homogeneous products, we mean goods that are similar or identical or that are standardized. They don't differ in quality, appearance, and taste. But if we talk about differentiated products, we mean those products that look similar, they appear also similar, but they are not actually similar, they are differentiated. The thing is that they satisfy the same utility, they are perfect substitutes for each other. So we call them differentiated products. We check the smartphones or cell phones that we are having. They satisfy the same utility. The objective is similar as we use them. However, they are differentiated because branding is not the same. The quality is not the same. Appearance is not the same. So that's what makes them to differ from each other. So pure oligopoly and differentiated oligopoly. We continue in section B, lower order. We talk about now contemporary economic issues, lower order. Let's check what we have in there. State any two criteria for an activity to be regarded as tourism. For us to say the activity is tourism or is a part of tourism, what should be there? Number one, there must be a reason for the trip or the tour that is taken by an individual or a tourist. There must be no remuneration or income expected on the tour. Also, there must be a traveling distance of above 160 kilometers. And then for us also to say the the activity is tourism, I mentioned that there must be a reason for the trip. Also, an individual or a tourist must spend at least one night in that particular destination. So let's check. There must be a purpose for a visit. And you cannot just go without having a purpose. There must be no remuneration or income expected by the individual. There must be a minimum of one night at least, and then a maximum of 1 year. So the trip must not be more than 1 year. Once it's more than 1 year, that's no longer regarded as tourism. And then also traveling distance of more than 160 kilometers must take place. We continue. List any 2 examples of World Heritage Sites in South Africa. Here we have a long list. Mapungubwe, and then also we have the Frederick Dome, and then we have Stekfontein Caves or Cradle of Humankind. We also have Robben Island. We have Richterveld Cultural and Botanical Landscape. We also have Isimangaliso Wetland Park. And then we have the Cape Fynbos region. We also have Ukahlamba Drakensberg Park. And then we have Komani Makonjwa Mountains. Then we continue. Give any 2 examples of consumer inflation. Remember, now we are going to inflation. Remember, inflation is regarded as the significant increase in general price level of goods and services over a period of time. So if we talk about the consumer inflation here, we have 4 examples of consumer inflation. So I will quickly break them down. We have CPI inflation or headline inflation. This is the inflation that has not been adjusted. It has effects of the mortgage bonds or interest rate. And then we have CPIX inflation. So this is the inflation or consumer inflation type that has been adjusted. It excludes mortgage bonds or interest rates. Then we have core inflation. Core inflation refers to the inflation that excludes goods with highly volatile prices, such as food, such as fuel. Those prices are volatile, they're inconsistent, they can increase or decrease anytime. So they are not the part of the core inflation. And then the last one, we have administered inflation. This inflation refers to the prices. This is refers to the prices that have been adjusted or administered by the government for specific goods and services, such as the prices for it can be the municipal rates are controlled by the government, water supply, electricity, etc. They are the part of administered inflation. Remember, it's very important for you to know that the CPI inflation or headline inflation is always greater than CPIX inflation. Why? Because CPI or headline inflation has not been adjusted. It has effects of mortgage bond and interest rate, while CPIX has been adjusted. Also, it is very important for you to know that core inflation is also lower than CPI inflation because the core inflation has been adjusted. Remember, I said to you, it excludes the prices of goods that are highly volatile, meaning that can increase or decrease anytime. So, if one asks you the question to say, mention any 2 examples of adjusted consumer inflation, you know that's a CPIX as well as the core inflation. And then we move to the middle order. There's a lot that you can do, but we move to the middle order, which can move from 2 to 4 marks. But in this situation, it's 4 marks. But somewhere it can be, in this situation, it's 2 marks, but it can be 4 marks if ever it's in data response somewhere in your 0.5. Remember, these questions focus on applications of economic knowledge-based economic activities. So for you to answer this question, you need to be able to apply your mind, be able to link, be able to understand 2 concepts that are in that particular question, statement, or sentence, so that it will be able to make sense. Number 2, a candidate must be able to link correct in order to get answers correct. You must be able to link. For instance, we can say, how can the increase in repo rate affect the money supply? If ever repo rate increases, that will lead to the decrease in money supply. So how does the increase, firstly, that action verb increase in what? In repo rate, link now, affect money supply. You are linking repo rate or repurchase rate to the money supply. So as you link, you will check what happened to the repo rate. Did it increase or decrease? So then you can make sense and provide the answer. So you must be able to link in this situation for you to get answers correct. Such questions are assessed in section B in question 2.1.2 and 3.1.2 and 4.1.2. Remember, those are first questions in the after the lower order where you have to list. They are also assessed in data response in 2.2.4, 2.2.5. It is, yeah, they're also found, like I mentioned to you. 2.3.4, 2.3.5, they're also found there. Remember, when they go to 2.3.5 or 2.2.5, they will be out of 4 marks now. 3.2.4, they will be 2 marks, but 3.2.5, they will be 4 marks. 3.3.4, 3.3.5. For 3.3.4 is 2 marks, 3.3.5 is 4 marks. 4.2.4 is a what is it? It's a 2 marks. 4.2.5 it's a 4 marks. 4.3.2, and then also we have 4.3. There's 4.3.4 and 4.3.5. Here is 2. Here is 4. Remember, the question will demand based on the mark allocation. If ever is under maybe 4.2.4, you answer based on allocated marks, which is 2 marks. But if the question requires you to do more, like for 4 marks, you need to ensure that you provide more answers, or at least the minimum of 2 full sentences if they are correct, so that you can be able to obtain marks. Answers must be in full sentences with the entire sense as demanded by question. It is very important for you to ensure that answers are provided in full sentences. Avoid listing, because if you list, you will be forfeiting marks. Ensure that you answer in a full sentence to obtain these marks. Candidates must avoid the repetition of question statement when they answer the question. You must not repeat the question statement. For instance, if we say, how can the increase in value-added tax affect the inflation rate? So in that situation, you cannot start by saying the increase in value-added tax. Avoid that repetition. Just give the answer to say, remember, I said the question, how can the increase in VAT affect inflation? So what you say it will lead to maybe the decrease in inflation, because that will be resulting to the decrease in real income or the decrease in demand for goods and services. Remember, price will become relatively expensive if VAT is increasing. For that sake, consumers will demand less. Or you can even further by saying it can lead to administered inflation, because as the government intervened by increasing VAT, that will be resulting to price of goods becoming expensive for consumers, which will then cause higher prices for consumers, which will be inflation. And then these are the examples of microeconomics. Make order questions for 2 marks. Why are merit goods normally undersupplied by the market? Firstly, you need to know what is meant by the merit good. You can't answer this question without knowing what is meant by the merit good. Normally undersupplied. Now you have an idea, or they are being undersupplied by the market. Who undersupplies the market? So now, if you can't understand what is meant by undersupplying, then you have a problem. Remember, as demerit goods are in the market, they are indeed undersupplied by the market. Why? Because these goods are highly rated for the social welfare, but they are underrated by the market. People are not willing to pay for merit goods. That's why the state end up intervening by providing them to the entire society. Then let's check. The market only produces goods that are profitable. Remember, merit goods include education, healthcare, and defense force. So in this situation, these merit goods that are provided, they should be provided by the market, because the market is obviously responsible to provide all goods and services in the economy, but they are being undersupplied because the market will only produce goods that are profitable and goods that consumers are willing to demand or willing to pay for. If ever consumers are not willing to pay for some goods and services, the market cannot supply those goods, because the market is profit motive. It is willing to achieve profit at all times. So should the consumers not be willing to provide those goods, they are willing to get them as free riders, then the market can undersupply those goods and services. Some goods are highly desirable for the general welfare of the people, but not highly rated by the market. if they had to be paid for, relatively little would be consumed because few people are able to afford. Like if we talk about the private education, it is expensive. So some people or some of the parents cannot afford that kind of the education, so they go for public education. That's why we say they are being undersupplied by the market because as much as they are highly rated for the welfare of the nation, but people are not willing to pay for them. Therefore, they are underrated in the market. For that reason, the market decides to undersupply those schools because they are not profitable enough for them due to the fact that people are not willing to pay for them. Why will the economic profit made by monopolistic competitor disappear in the long run? Firstly, we are talking about the profit. Why will the economic profit made by whom? Monopolistic competitor disappear in the long run? There is a lot of information to link in this statement or in this question statement. Why will the profit made or enjoyed by a monopolistic? Firstly, you must know the profit. Secondly, you must know the monopolistic competitor. Who is that? What is that? And then disappear in the long run. You must know what happens in the long run according to the inputs or factors of production. We know that economic profit is achieved when revenues earned by the business exceed costs incurred in the business. And then the monopolistic competition refers to the market structure that exists where there are many buyers and sellers while firms have influence over the price. And then what happens actually here? Remember, under monopolistic competition, there are many buyers and sellers. So basically, there are many sellers under the monopolistic competition because there are no barriers to entry. The market entry is completely free. New firms are free to enter the market while existing firms are free to leave the market. What happens in there? That will always lead to the increase in competition within the market. So should the competition in the market increases, what is going to happen? New firms that will be entering the market will enter because they are attracted by profit that are enjoyed by existing firms. For that sake, the competition will be increasing, which will result to what will result to existing firms losing their market share, losing their profits because of the increasing number of firms in the market. So remember, the long run is the period of time at which all inputs are flexible. So in the long run, all inputs or factors of production are flexible to change. So that simply tells you that even new firms find it easy to enter the market because their capital has been made available due to flexibility because it's the long run. That will be increasing the competition in this kind of the market because there are no barriers to entry or restriction that exist to block the entry of new businesses. For that sake, a firm that were existing, they will find themselves having less, economic loss while existing firms will come in and enjoy maybe economic profit. The profit will be reduced due to, by the fact that the competition has increased. So as the competition increases, what happens? Existing firms will be losing their market share. Profits attract new businesses easily into the market, making it more competitive. So with the profit, with the profit that is enjoyed by firms in the market, that will be attracting new firms to enter the market. Increased competition will lead to a decrease in prices, which will reduce profits. Yes, with more competition, prices will be decreased because price in the market will become more competitive. For that sake, profits will be reduced in this kind of the market. There can be an increase in the number of substitute products produced, which will reduce the demand. So remember, with new firms entering the market under monopolistic as they produce differentiated products, but some of those products satisfy the same utility. They are perfect substitutes. So if firms are entering the market to compete with those alternating products for consumers, consumers will find it easy for them to alternate by choosing those other related products which are differentiated, as they will be able to satisfy the same utility. And then this will eventually lead to normal profit by the monopolist competitor in the long run. So firms that have been in the market for long will find themselves having the reduced economic profit to the normal profit in the long run because of increase in the number of substitute products, the increase in competition, and reduced prices due to the increase in competition. Then we'll continue. Why would a lack of information to entrepreneurs lead to the market failure? Remember that information is very much important for businesses or entrepreneurs. If ever they are not having adequate or sufficient or enough information about prevailing market conditions, entrepreneur is unaware of the cheaper factors of production, or the market where it can be able to find cheap factors of production, that will make difficulties for that particular entrepreneur, because it can happen that the entrepreneur is spending a lot of money for a factor of production that is relatively cheap in another labor market. Also for machines, it is very important for entrepreneurs to know markets that are offering affordable machinery or equipment with the same quality as those that are expensive. So entrepreneurs must have adequate information about prevailing market conditions. Otherwise, that can lead to the market failure, because they will end up overspending money while producing less quantity of goods and services due to the fact that they have incomplete information. A lack of information regarding cost and availability of factors of production will result in misallocation of resources, will result in inefficiency in production. So it can lead to productive inefficiency in the market, because firms will be misallocating resources in a way of allocative inefficiency, and then that can lead to productive inefficiency also. How does the unfair distribution of income result to market failure? Remember, if the income is unfairly distributed, that can lead to what? That can lead to the market failure in this situation. Markets or private sector only produce goods for those who can afford. So goods are produced in the market for those who can afford. Those who cannot afford have no stake in that particular market, because they cannot afford those goods and services. So that can lead to the market failure, because more goods are produced for few people, while less goods are produced for more people, due to the fact that people are not affording those goods and services in the market. Few goods and services are produced for many people, while more goods and services are produced for few people in the market due to the unfair distribution of income. Some people have no income, some people have a moderate, some people have a lot of income. So those that are having no income cannot afford some goods and services. So if ever they are sold in the market, that will lead to the fact that people that are not affording will not be able to buy those goods and services. While the market is oversupplying, there will be less demand for those goods. In the market, goods are produced only for those who can afford, neglecting the needy people who cannot afford. So in that situation, that's a market failure, because the main objective of the market is to supply goods to consumers. And the consumers must be able to afford those goods, because there should be competitive prices. But because of unfair income distribution, some people have no income at all that they are receiving. So that can lead to them automatically not to afford goods and services, even though some other people are affording. Then make your order on contemporary economic issues. Let's check what is here. So how can environmental subsidies be used to ensure sustainable development in South Africa? It is very important for you to know we are talking about environmental subsidies. Remember, if ever environmental subsidies are given in place, that will be encouraging businesses to be involved in green energy, to be sustainable, because they will be given the support from the government to keep on maintaining the environment to prevent it from harm. And then, so how can it be used to ensure sustainable development? So what is meant by sustainable development? This refers to the development that occurs when there is no compromise on the environment, while the production or while welfare of people is also increasing. There is no compromise with the improvement of welfare of the nation. That's a sustainable development. So how can environmental subsidies be used to ensure such? Let's check. Subsidies can be granted to businesses to reduce environmental damage by recycling of bottles, cans, and cardboard. So remember, if ever we throw this part of hazardous waste into the environment, it can damage the environment. So in that situation, we don't have sustainable development. But should we be given subsidies on production? That will, subsidies on environmental subsidies, that will encourage us as businesses to ensure that we keep on recycling the used material, so that will always be receiving the funding that has been granted. And then the government can subsidize new technology that save energy, such as energy-saving bulbs or solar geysers, air power, to reduce air pollution. For businesses that are on energy, they can be attracted and be encouraged to use the solar energy that is sustainable to the environment, because we are using the environment or resources in a manner that is sustainable. We are using them in a manner that will keep them intact even for future generations. So if we are preserving, we are protecting them, we are taking care of them, we are using them in a manner that is not destructive, so that future generations can be able to enjoy the same benefits as the current generation. Preservation prevents the extinction of plants and animal species. It ensures that non-renewable resources are not lost forever. Even renewable resources, some of them, they should not be abused when they are being utilized, because if they are being abused, they will be completed for the short period of time. Then it will take longer for them to be recovered, even though they can be recovered again. For instance, if we talk about forestry, if you cut all trees right now, all of them at the same time, it will take you about 20 years to get them ready again for production. So it is very important to ensure that we use, even if they are renewable, we use them in a sustainable manner. If we preserve, they will be protected from extinction. We are talking about flora and fauna, we're talking about species. Those plants and animals, living and non-living things, will be protected from extinction, especially if they are endangered. If we talk about endangered resources, we mean those resources that are in danger of extinction. They can be completed if they can be abused or overused or overexploited. And then we continue. How can the tourism sector help to reduce poverty among the local people in the community? So the tourism, how can tourism sector, now you check tourism sector, how can it be used to reduce poverty among people in the community? So if ever there are tourism activities in the community, obviously there will be some job opportunities being created by that particular industry, which will be leading to what? Will be leading to local people getting to be employed. There will also be self-employment opportunities as for informal sector. People will be involved in activities that will be allowing them to start their own businesses in the area, so that they will be able to sell their product to tourists. So that will be increasing the level of income within the community and result to poverty alleviation. So let's check what is being mentioned in responses. The local unemployed people can earn income by supplying of goods and services to tourists. Those ones are the ones that will be self-employed. Local people form partnerships with businesses to supply arts and crafts to curio shops to sell to tourists, e.g. beadwork. Yes, local people can form some partnership with the formal businesses in the area, so that they will be the main suppliers of them with those, what we call it, craft works, so that they can be able to be sold to the tourists in that particular area. Why would high inflation lead to retrenchment in the workplace? Now we are talking about high inflation. We are talking about retrenchment. Now it is very important for you to link. Remember, high inflation. If inflation is too high, what normally happens? There will be a decrease in buying power parity of money. And then also, if inflation increases, trade unions will start to negotiate or will start bargaining in order to, they will be negotiating better wages and salaries for their members to prevent them from living undermined living standard. Remember, if ever inflation increases, the buying power of money will be eroded. So there will be part of erosion. It will lose its value. It will decline the buying power. So as the buying power of money declines, people find themselves affording less goods and services. So as firms are starting to bargain, to negotiate better wages and salaries for their members, I mean, as the trade unions are starting to bargain for better wages and salaries, firms might find themselves increasing those wages and salaries at the expense of retrenching some employees, because remember, with more inflation, there will be less demand for goods and services. So there will obviously be less demand for labor, because if ever there are less people that are demanding goods and services, that means there is no need for much labor within the particular industry. Then there will be retrenchment. So high inflation would result in lower production where businesses require less labor. So as businesses require less labor, some of the employees must be retrenched. Lower demand for goods and services become a distinctive for businesses to produce more, which decrease the demand for labor. There will be lower demand for labor because there will be less demand for goods and services. Firms find it difficult to keep employees, while in that particular firm, there is lower demand for goods and services that they've produced. Then we continue. Why is international tourism important to South African economy? Now we are talking about tourism again. Why is an international? We are talking about one type of tourism now. Or actually, no, it's one classification of tourism. If it's international now, we are talking about South Africans living in the country. We are to the foreign country. We are talking about foreign people coming into South Africa. Why is it important in the economy? Remember, As foreign tourists are coming into the country, the country will be earning the foreign currency because for them to spend, and tourists bring their currencies, which earns the foreign exchange for the country, and also contribute to the gross domestic product due to direct spending by tourists. Create more jobs in service sectors such as transport, hotel, and focus. Remember, as foreign tourists come into South Africa, they don't bring their own transport. They rely on South African transport. Also, they will have to be shown around by tour guides, which will be people that will be employed because of that particular international tourism. We continue. How can the appreciation of South African rand against US dollar affect international tourism? So in this situation, again, we're also in tourism, but we are on appreciation of South African rand. If our rand is becoming stronger against the dollar, how is that going to affect the international tourism? You must look at two things here as you answer the question. You look at how is it going to affect South Africans that are touring to US, and how is it going to affect US tourists that are touring to South Africa. Firstly, if ever our currency appreciates, it becomes stronger. That's the first thing that you must know. It becomes stronger compared to that other currency or foreign exchange. So in that situation, South African tourists will find it cheap to tour to US because US dollar will be most affordable by South Africans. Remember, as South African rand appreciates against US dollar will be depreciating. So in that situation, so we mean there will be more South African tourists touring to US because US dollar will be mostly affordable, while there will be less tourists from US to South Africa due to the fact that South African rand will be relatively expensive compared to the US dollar. And then in South African rand, make US dollar more affordable to South Africans. If US dollar can result to more South Africans touring to US, while US tourists to South Africa decrease because of depreciated currency. So keep this thing in your mind. As our currency appreciates against US dollar depreciates. So we will afford more US dollar because it will be relatively affordable. But then they will afford less rand because it will be relatively expensive for them due to the fact that our currency have appreciated over their currency, theirs have depreciated. Then we move to the data response. That's when now you come across the layout of 1, 1, 2, 2, 4. Each data response consists of how many marks? It's 10 marks. Then let's check here, how can you do things? Each data response consists of 5 questions, which sum up to 10 marks. Given data response, ensure that you get those 10 marks. Ensure that you answer out of 10 marks because there is no way you have data response in this situation or in this nature of exam having 8 marks. It will be 10 marks. Then marks allocation is 1, 1, 2, 2, 4, which means the first answer will be lower orders 4 marks, 1 mark. Second answer, lower order, 1 mark. You can either identify the answer from the given data, or the answer is just simple in a way that you cannot, there is no need for you to identify, but you will always remember. The second one, or the third one, is the definition, where you define a certain concept or term. And then you describe, And then the fourth one is the one that we're doing, which requires you to a little bit think and link why, how, and what impact. And then the fourth one, which is 4 marks, or the fifth one, which is 4 marks, requires you to either calculate, relate to the given data by analyzing something, or answering the question of why, how, and what impact, linking in there, or analyzing the graph, or etc. And then also each data response is based on the specific topic, so or context in the economics. There is no data response that can come from nowhere. Each data given to you or data response given to you is specially linked to the particular topic that you have covered in your paper 2. You will see as we go on. First 2 questions of data response are lower order. They can be found in the given data, or you can identify them or mention, or you can look at them and give your own verdict, or maybe you can just remember the answer. From the 3rd to the 5th question, answers are not found in data response. Candidates must not copy the extract for this question. It is very important for you to avoid to copy extract for these kinds of questions. From the 3rd question to the 5th question, the answer may not be found or cannot be found in the data given to you. But you must use your content knowledge to answer those questions, even though answers are not there. So these are examples of data response under microeconomics. So here we come across the living wage. We demand the living wage, meaning employees here are in need of living wage so that they can afford their basic living. And then this is under market failure. There are many causes of market failure, such as externalities, merit goods, and unequal distribution of income. And then in January 2019, government intervened to address unequal income distribution and announced national minimum wage. Now we are already seeing that we have a content here, which is minimum wage. We have reasons for the market failure that have been provided. This announcement was supported by the COSATU and the Federation of Unions of South Africa. So now it is very important for you to be able to say, okay, this is under market failure, and we have reasons for the market failure. Also, there's a part of consequence of the market failure as a state intervention, which is the minimum wage. Remember, now you can explain what is meant by minimum wage. The lowest wage that no employee or worker should be paid below in a particular industry. Which are industries in South Africa that are affected by minimum wage? We talk about agricultural industry, we talk about domestic workers industry, we talk about EPWP, what you call a project that's a part of minimum wage. So you already have an idea. How does the minimum wage positively affect the welfare of the society? That will lead, minimum wage will lead to people earning relatively more income to the point that they will be able to afford their living standards. There will even be more demand for goods and services, which will lead to social welfare gain. What about the bad effects of minimum wage? It can lead to retrenchment, because if ever there's a minimum wage, firms find it expensive to employ or to hire workers. Because now it will be, labor costs will be expensive. For that sake, firms decide to employ less workers. And then you also ring it in your mind, that will lead to the excess supply of of labor and less demand for labor, because workers will be willing to work if there's a minimum wage, due to the fact that they will be getting reasonable income. However, firms will not be willing to employ more workers because of the increase in cost or labor cost. So keep that in your mind. How can the state intervene to prevent retrenchment because of the minimum wage? The state can intervene by providing employment subsidies to employers or business, so that there won't be job losses. Now let's check. Name one type of inefficiency that results from market failure: productive, technical, or allocative inefficiency. So remember, if we talk about productive, we also mean technical inefficiency, and then we have allocative inefficiency. Remember, productive inefficiency occurs when the product produced do not satisfy the consumer utility. The allocative occurs when the market misallocate resources in a way that they are underutilized. You find that there is enough resource available, but the firm uses less of them. That is known to be allocative inefficiency. We also have Pareto inefficiency, which occurs when it is impossible to make someone better without making someone worse. If one redress policy that government uses to redistribute income, that policy is what we call it can be triple BE or BE, which is a part of affirmative action, land restitution, land redistribution under land reform. Both of these are under land reform. Remember, if we talk about land restitution, we refer to the situation, which it refers to a situation whereby the state intervenes by giving financial compensation or monetary compensation to people that lost their land forcefully during the apartheid. And then land redistribution is all about giving back land to those people that lost it for the sake of settlement, business purposes, etc. Minimum wage also is a part of redress policies, because it is trying to reduce imbalances that occurs in the economy, imbalances of the past. We continue. Briefly describe the term merit good. Remember, these are goods that are beneficial to the entire society. They do not contain any negative externality. So goods that are beneficial to the society, where every individual should consume them, irrespective of their income. It doesn't matter if people do have income or not, they will be able to consume these goods and services, even if they don't have income. That's why these goods are undersupplied by the market, because people should access these goods regardless of income. Therefore, the market cannot provide those goods easily to the entire market or economy, because some people are really not willing to pay for them. Then the government intervenes to provide them as the part of public goods under merit goods. Why does negative externality result in the overproduction of goods and services. So remember, if we have the negative externalities, that means we refer to charges that spill over to the third party, or that affect the third party, or that are borne to the third party. So why does it lead to overproduction? So the external or third party cost is not included in the market price, thus lowering the cost, which allows producers to produce more than they should. And then we continue. Explain the negative consequences of the minimum wage in the economy. So we have already spoken about it. Let's check. Minimum wage will result to the increase in unemployment due to reduced demand for labor. Remember, firms will be demanding less labor due to the fact that labor costs will be too high or expensive for them. Then they demand less labor. So there will be high level of unemployment. Since wages form a large part of cost of production, output and the competitiveness is compromised. So remember, wages are forming the huge amount of national income in the country. So that will be compromising output, because if wages are too high, there will be less demand for labor and less productivity. So output will be compromised. And then government's tax revenue is reduced through lower employment, which increases the social welfare burden of the government. If ever people are losing their jobs, that means the state must intervene by providing what we call a social security grants, so that people can be able to afford the basic needs. Due to lower employment, production will decrease, which will lead to inflation. So there can be a cost push inflation caused by the minimum wage, because if firms continue to employ those workers, even though there's a minimum wage, the final cost of the production will be high. That will lead to firms intervening by offsetting the cost of production to the end user of the product or consumers, which will make it cause what we call the cost push inflation in the economy. Also, if the productivity will decrease because of retrenchment or reduced employment, that can result to firms having to charge relatively high prices for their goods and services because of lower productivity. We are given again here data response. Start the graph below and answer questions that follow. Here we have what we call the King's demand curve. The King's demand curve under oligopoly. Remember, the King's demand curve is the demand curve which is downward sloping, but with two segments, namely the top segment and the bottom segment. The top segment is this one. It is relatively elastic, and the bottom one is this one, which is relatively inelastic. And then here at point E, we have the collusive price, which is regarded as the market price for the firms under oligopoly. And then the above price with the 45 is the individual price, and 25 is also an individual price. This simply tells you that one can ask you the question, why is the top segment being relatively elastic while the bottom segment is relatively inelastic? So the top segment is relatively elastic under oligopoly, because if one firm decides to increase the price from 40 to 45, other firms within the same industry might be reluctant to increase their price because they avoid losing their market share or profits. But that will be creating what? It will be creating the top segment, because one firm sell this product at the higher cost. Other firms keep their prices down on the same product. Consumers will not be buying from this firm that is selling at 45 rand, but they will keep on buying from those that are selling at 40 rand because they have a benefit in there. That will be creating consumer sensitiveness. That means on the top segment, consumers are very sensitive to the increase in price if other firms are selling at the lower price while one firm is selling at the higher cost, while we have the same product, or even if it's differentiated. And then why is the bottom segment relatively inelastic? It is because if one firm lower the price from 40 to 25, other firms might copy the strategy because they avoid losing their market share. Should they keep their price up at 40, they will lose their consumers and their market share. So for them to avoid losing their consumers, they must also lower their price to 28 rand, which will lead to what? It will lead to any expected gain by this individual firm that lowered the price initially being lost immediately because of what? Because other firms have copied the strategy by selling at the lower prices too, on the same product. Now, under oligopoly, they always avoid this situation. We call this thing a price war. They avoid it by using the non-price competition strategies, which are the strategies that can be used by each firm to ensure that it obtains much consumers, much profit or market share within the market. So they don't compete over the price. They compete using the non-price competition strategies, which can be operating for long hours extra, offering extra services, giving loyalty schemes or loyalty points to consumers, door-to-door delivery, and then also the packaging being smart also attract consumers. The branding, having their brands being unique, advertising, marketing their products, that's a part of the non-price committing strategy that are used by firms under the what we call oligopoly. Identify the inelastic segment of the demand curve. It's ED1. According to the graph behind there, it's ED1. And then name the demand curve depicted in the graph. Then we have the king demand curve, which is bending inward in there, bending or halfway in there to separate two segments. And then briefly describe the term tacit collusion. Remember, the tacit collusion is also known as an implicit collusion or hidden collusion. The tacit collusion is the behavior by firms. Behavior by firms is motivated by arrangement that is not formal. So it occurs when firms copy each other's strategies or decisions without any formal agreement. We regard that as an implicit collusion or tacit collusion. There is no formal agreement to fix the price. One firm increases the price, other firms copy the price without any formal agreement. We call that an implicit, tacit, or hidden collusion. Remember, in your mind already you must have the explicit collusion, which occurs when there's a formal agreement between firms within the same industry to fix the price or production techniques. Then we continue. When the dominant firm increases its price and hope that its rivals will see it as a market signal and increase their prices too. Remember, implicit collusion is informed or encouraged by what we call the price leadership process, whereby the firm that is regarded to be price leader will set the price and other firms will copy the strategy without any formal agreement. So there's a price leadership process in there. Who is the price leader? A price leader can be a firm that is regarded to be a dominant firm. That's a firm that is having at least 32% market share and above within the market, can be seen as a price leader or dominant firm. However, the price leader can also be a firm that is very much smart on taking market-related decisions. The firm that is understanding market signal more than any other firms in the market or industry can be regarded as a price leader, because they clearly know, or commenters clearly know, that if this firm make a decision, it becomes profitable. So we will copy the strategy by this firm. So that firm will always be followed because of making proper decisions that are profitable. That firm can also be seen as a price leader, even though it's not the dominant firm, but it's a price leader. So that tells you that the price leader is not always the dominant firm. You can be a dominant firm and be a price leader at the same time. However, you can be a dominant firm also but not be a price leader, because you are copying other firms' decisions due to the fact that they clearly understand market signals and market indicators very, very well, which makes you to enjoy the profit. How does the profit of an oligopoly differ from the profit of monopolistic competition in the long run, or competitor in the long run? Now, know the following. The oligopoly is the market that exists where there are few large firms and many buyers. Monopolistic competition, there are many buyers and sellers. In the long run, the profit enjoyed by monopolistic firms will be reduced because of the increase in the number of competition. But under the oligopoly, the profit enjoyed in the long run can increase because they charge excessively abnormal prices due to the fact that they are involved in collusive practices. So let's check. The oligopoly will make economic profit over the long run compared to the monopolistic competitor making normal profit only in the long run. Why does the monopolistic commission make normal profit in the long run? It is because the market entry is completely free. Firms are free to enter the market anytime to compete by producing these substitute products. But under oligopoly, there are some barriers to entry that can prevent the end of new businesses. And even though there are barriers to entry, but in this situation, firms under oligopoly will always charge higher prices so that they can keep up with their profit even in the long run. Why will the above producer be reluctant to decrease his prices from 40 to 28 rand? So all calculations. In this situation, remember it's 4 marks. So you need to ensure that as you answer for 4 marks. So you will have to calculate before you comment. These firms will be reluctant to lower their prices from 40 to 28. And remember, as they lower their prices, what is going to happen? The quantity produced will be slightly increased, but total revenues for the firm will be decreasing. So the producer revenue will decrease. At the price of 40 rand, the producer will earn 28,000, 40 times 700, compared to income and when the price is compared to an income of 22,000, 28 times 800 at the price of 28 rand. So let's check. So if ever the firm is selling at 40 rand, the income received is 28,000. But when the firm is selling at 28 rand, that means when the firm is selling at 40 rand is 28,000, and then 28 rand is 22,400. Here we are. That means this firm is losing its total revenue. So the firm will decide not to lower its prices because it will be receiving less total revenues. At 40, the revenue would be 28,000 compared to 22,400 at 28 rand. The producer's revenues will decrease. That's why the firm will be reluctant to lower its prices. Yeah, given the graph, I can start the graphs below and answer questions that follow. This is total revenue maximization. So we can see that we have our demand curve. This is the monopoly, by the way. Our demand curve, the AR is to D, and then our marginal revenue, which is cutting our horizontal axis in the middle in there. And then also we have our price, original price, which is P, then going together with the Q. We have our P1, which is showing the decrease in prices and the increase in quantity demanded to Q1. Remember, under the monopoly, firms are price setters. They always increase the price to decrease the output and decrease the price to increase the output. The total revenues is maximized at PQ here. So the firm cannot experience even further revenues after reaching this point because it becomes our maximum point. Then it can decrease down until it becomes zero because it has already been maximized. Mention the imperfect market structure illustrated above. That's a monopoly. Okay, let me bring this one back again. And then also we continue. Identify the total revenues maximization price. It's P, like I indicated. Briefly describe the term marginal revenues. Marginal revenues refer to the revenues earned after selling an extra additional unit. And then we continue. How is the equilibrium position for above firm in the short run and the long run? So under the monopoly, remember, the equilibrium position will remain fixed. How do we see that? This is the situation. This is AR, this is D. And then we have our MC in there. Remember where MC is equals to, this is MR. This is AR is to D. Then where MC equals to MR, that's the profit maximization and equilibrium point. It remains fixed, it doesn't change because the firm has an influence over the price, and any change in price is indicated by the change along the demand. So the equilibrium position for above firm remains fixed in both short run and long run. It is not flexible. Why does the average cost curve lie below average revenue curve under the imperfect market structure? Remember, under the monopoly, I said before, the monopoly's firm will always increase the price to decrease the output, which will lower the marginal revenue, and decrease the price to increase the output, which will always affect the marginal revenue. Also, the marginal revenues and total revenue are only equal at the beginning on our top left, where they begin. As they slope downward, they will be cutting each. They will be splitting, and then MR will be lying below AR. Why? Remember, MR can be zero even if the firm is producing something, while AR can never be zero if the firm is still producing something. Therefore, AR and MR will never be the same. AR will always be above MR. That's why they split, because remember, MR can be zero and be negative, but AR can never be zero if the firm is still producing something within the market. Also, the fact is, the firm under the monopoly will always increase the price to decrease the output, which will lower marginal revenue, and also does what? Decrease the price to increase the output, which will always lower, the marginal revenues. So that's why they are not equal. AR will always be lying above MR. Imperfect market structures such as monopoly, oligopoly, and monopolistic have an influence or control over the price. And then they increase the price to decrease the output and decrease the price to increase the output. That lowers the marginal revenues. So that question is familiar for formats. Be able to answer why the AMR always lie below, why the MR always lie below AR under the monopoly or any other imperfect market structure. And then the economic issues here, we are given the inflation data response. So there is inflation in South Africa Remember, our inflation target is between 3 to 6%. So if inflation rate is above 6%, there's a problem. There must be proper intervention. We have 2020, 2021, 2022, and then there's a percentage of inflation. You can see that in 2020, inflation was within the target. 2021 was within the target. 2022, it started to rise above. You can see in 2022, as these blocks are indicating to 2022, you can see it is within the target, but here it is slightly above the target. Then again, somewhere there it's 6.5%. Be aware that if inflation is above the target, the state must intervene. The South African Reserve Bank must intervene using restrictive monetary policy measures, and also the government must intervene using restrictive, what do you call it, the fiscal policy measures. Also, the state must intervene by ensuring, if ever it's a cost push in inflation, by ensuring that there are no supply challenges. There's more production of goods and services in the economy. Identify the inflation rate in the second quarter of 2020. It was 4.5. There is the answer. What is the inflation target set by South African Reserve Bank in South Africa? It is between 3 to 6%. Briefly describe the term demand pull inflation. Demand pull inflation occurs when the aggregate demand increases faster than aggregate supply in the economy. And then we continue. And then explain the effect of high inflation rate on the poor people. So if ever there's high level of inflation, how do poor people get to be affected? Remember, inflation will erode the buying power of money, leading to the point that people find themselves living under undermined standard of living. So if people are not having any income, or they have lowest income, inflation will always affect them. It will lead to them affording relatively less goods and services, which will be undermining their standard of living, and they will be trapped under poverty. They can find themselves earning income that is below poverty line, which will lead to them being under poverty trap. So explain the effect of, okay, goods and services become expensive and unaffordable for the poor. The poor may not be able to satisfy their needs and wants, leading to an absolute poverty and low living standard. Why is deflation bad for the economy? Remember, now we talk about deflation, not inflation. Remember, deflation occurs when there's significant decrease in prices of goods in the economy over a period of time. So if ever there's a deflation, consumers will always benefit in that situation because they afford goods at the lower cost. However, producers find themselves being affected negatively because you find that they produce goods at the higher cost. Now they have to sell them at the lower cost because of deflation. That will be resulting to producers withdrawing their investments from the country's economy and leaving. That will lead to less goods being produced in the economy due to the fact that there is a deflation. Remember, inflation must be there, but it must not be there must be price stability, by the way. Price must not increase or decrease faster. They must be established. They must increase, but at the reasonable rate, not above 6%, not below 3%. Inflation discourages producers and results to disinvestment or withdrawal of investments. Excessive decrease in prices has an effect of excess demand and market shortages. We know that if ever these prices are too low because of deflation, consumers will demand more than what can be supplied by firms, which will be causing market shortages. That's a market failure. High fixed costs such as labor can cause economic loss for business during deflation. Remember, the contract, wages and salaries are paid on the lease agreement or on contracts. So if ever now we experience deflation while our workers are earning relatively high income, the firm will find itself being affected in a bad way due to the fact that more income will be paid to workers while there will be, there will be less returns. So they will be affecting them too much because labor costs will still be high, but the deflation or price will be relatively low. So whatever paid for labor or factory production will not be received back. So firms will find themselves making economic loss. That's why they decide to withdraw or leave the economy because of the deflation. And then here we have the tourism data response. Weak rand can benefit South Africa's tourism. Then South Africa's currency has reached its lowest level since 2021. This is great news for international tourists. Then we are going back there, who can make advantage of a very favorable exchange to visit South Africa. And now, more than ever, South Africa offers great value for money and has become one of the greatest holiday destinations for international travel. South Africa offers vacation options to suit every pocket and taste. Travelers are truly spoiled for choice, from hotel and safari lodge accommodation, restaurants, offering local and internal cuisine, access to big five, wildlife and spectacular, and then breathtaking scenery. So this is the data response, which is an extract. I have underlined all important points that you will have to provide as answers somewhere there in your lower order. Identify one good or services on which tourists can you spend money in South Africa. Let's check. Hotel and lodge accommodation, it was there. Restaurant services, they're also there. Big five viewing is also there. What is the name of currency used in South Africa? That is the rand. Then we continue. Briefly describe the term ecotourism. So ecotourism occurs when tourists visit the place to observe the beauty of nature. Then we continue. How does weaker rand affect South African tourists? I answered this question before on our weekly order, whenever, but I answered it on the appreciation of stronger rand. If the rand is weaker, South African tourists will find it difficult to tour to the foreign countries because that will lead to them affording less of the foreign currencies. Outbound tourism will be more expensive, which will decrease the outflow of domestic tourists. Weak South African currency is detrimental to outbound tourism. This will therefore increase domestic tourism, meaning people will decide to tour within the currency instead of going out because they are unable to afford most of the foreign currencies. How can an increase in tourism negatively affect the environment? We know that as tourism increases, that can lead to environmental degradation, because as tourists coming to the place or destination at once, more tourists coming in one place at once, that can lead to environmental stress because people leave their carbon footprint. And then as cars are bringing tourists into the particular destination, they are burning fossil fuel, which will be affecting the environment in this particular area. The increase in tourists in one place increases environmental stress. And then tourism activities have a negative effect on the environment. If tourists leave their carbon footprint, they litter in that particular tourism destination. Increase in tourism results to high prices for local people, even though the question is on the environment. South Africa CPI between 21 and 2022. South African Consumer Price Index increased from an average of 97.5% in the financial year of 2021 to 104.2 in the financial year of 2022. This 6.7 increase in the Consumer Price Index was a result of depreciated currency, fuel cost increase, and the lower productivity. Now let's check the questions in there. Identify the type of inflation associated with the increase in the fuel prices. So that will be cost push inflation or supply inflation. Name one way in which inflation is measured. We have three ways. Firstly, we have CPI and PPI, which is the indexes. We have a weighting, and we have also an inflation rate. And then briefly describe the term core inflation. So core inflation excludes items from the CPI basket that have highly volatile prices and items with the prices affected by the government intervention and policy. And then we continue. Why should the wage rate be determined at the same or higher rate than the average consumer price index? Remember, it is very important for employers to determine wage rate higher or at the similar rate than in inflation, CPI inflation or CPI or consumer price index, because as the wages are increasing, if they increase at the lower cost than inflation, that means people living standard will be undermined. As inflation increases, it erodes the disposable income and leads to the decrease in buying power. Therefore, it is important for inflation, if ever wages are increasing, and then they increase faster than inflation rate so that people can keep on enjoying better living standard. Workers must enjoy better or same standard of living than being compromised. Workers should be able to afford basic goods and services. They should have enough money to satisfy their needs. Questions the effect of inflation, which could reduce disposable income. Real wage increases to keep track with the cost of living increases. Calculate the inflation rate for 20 to show all calculations. So remember, we say inflation rate equal to CPI for the current year minus CPI previous year over CPI previous year multiplied by 100. So we substitute here. Our current year, in this case, is 2022, previous year is 2021. So substituted 104.2 minus 97.5 divided by 97.5 multiplied by 100. Then we got the inflation rate, which is 6.87% or 7%. It is above the inflation target. That gives you 4 marks. Then we are given the snow shutdown as a business road. We see in the picture here, we have the snow that has just occurred in South Africa in September this year. The N3 route is one of the South Africa's main highways transporting goods to and from Port City of Durban. The route is one of the busiest road freight corridors in the country, on which millions of tons of cargo are transported. It experienced a historical closure in September 2024 due to climate change, sourcegoogly.com. So this one is all about what we have just seen a few weeks ago. It's under environmental sustainability. All right, we check, identify the internal problem of environmental sustainability from the above, that's a climate change. And then which internal protocol was agreed upon reducing greenhouse gases into the environment? It is not there, but we know United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And then briefly describe the term pollution. Pollution is the disposal of toxic material into the environment. We continue. How does the continuous unpredictable change in weather patterns negatively affect food security in South Africa? Agriculture and farming experience death of and erosion of crops, while there is a dearth of livestock. These threaten food security and result to less market supply. And then we continue. How did the September snow negative affect the market? So remember, the road was closed. There was no distribution of goods and services. And then also in the area that is surrounding the road, we had firms shutting down, so there was no production. The closure of N3 roads stopped the distribution process of goods and services between Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Free State, Eastern Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. And then also it caused more than 72 hours pause in economic activities in all economic sectors, which resulted in industrial losses in affected areas. Exports from Gauteng channeled through Durban port were delayed, including imports that were coming, were received through Durban port to Gauteng were also delayed. Then we move to 8 marks question. So I'll be quick on this one because of time. So here, what do we expect? This question must be answered in full sentences. On the question where candidates must briefly discuss two concepts, marks are allocated into half, 4 marks per concept. So ensure that you answer accordingly. In the situation of distinguishing between concepts, it is important to link the differences, or if a candidate uses table format, numbering of points must correspond. So that differences must be clear. For instance, you have to distinguish between something. 1 must be to 1. If you are dealing with this one is taller, you must say this one is shorter. Don't say this one is taller, this one maybe is darker. It is not making sense anymore for differences. We are looking for differences. So 1 must be equals to 1. If ever you say so and so is taller, that means so and so is short. That's how you should answer if you are giving differences. Should you not do that, that means you will get it wrong. Also, to give differences in this situation, if you answer in paragraph forms, there must be some conjunctions in there, whereby you say, this one is shorter while this one is taller. This one is shorter, whereas this one is shorter. There must be that concept, that conjunction part that shows that we are comparing. Do not just say this one is shorter, this one is taller on the paragraph. It is not the difference. Remember, the mark allocation, all of that, it will be clamped together because it gives one difference, not two. It will be given 2 marks if it's correct and making the full sense once. It won't be, even if you are doing the table, column A and column B, it won't be given 2 for column A, 2 for column B. No, we are not discussing here. We are giving the difference. So we clamp it together to make 1 sense. We give you 2 marks if ever it's correct. If candidates are required to illustrate graphs, the interpretation or explanation must correspond to the correct graphs. Otherwise, it will be marked wrong. It is very important that if you are given the chance to draw the graph, the heading must be correct. The interpretation of graph must also be correct. This thing must link. So should you provide the heading for economic profit and draw economic loss, everything is wrong. Ensure that if you give the what you call the heading for economic loss, you draw economic loss. Then you interpret the graph correctly. You normally say, if you interpret your economic loss, you say shaded area indicates economic loss, but you did not shade any area. You are speaking lies in that situation. Ensure that if you interpret, you look at the graph, you take points that are on the graph, you put them down in words. Maximum of 4 marks for correct drawings and 4 marks for correct relevant facts are required to obtain 8 marks. You draw for 4 marks, and then you interpret or explain the graph for 4 marks. Middle order questions, which are 8 marks, are assessed in 2.4, 3.4, and 4.4. This is the content knowledge. It is in your book. Candidates are required to briefly discuss, differentiate, draw, and explain graph, interpret graphs. High order questions or high order 8 marks questions are assessed in 2.5, 3.5, and 4.5, including your additional parts. This is the critical knowledge which requires application of content into the real world situation. Candidates are required to evaluate and analyze or answer how, why questions, or even what impact. Mere listing of facts and examples in 2.4, 3.4, 4.4 will be rewarded at the maximum of 4 marks, while mere listing of facts in 2.5, 3.5, and 4.5 will be rewarded only the maximum of 2 marks. So if you list it, you will be forfeited marks. You must answer in full sentences. Let's check questions. Microeconomics first. Use the graph of total cost and total revenue to explain profit maximization in the perfect market. So here we go. We have our horizontal axis here and our vertical axis here. On our vertical, we have cost and revenues, then we have quantity on horizontal. Then our total revenues is upward sloping, the same as total cost. However, total cost will start slightly above, and then at the point where TC intersect with TR, that's what we call it, the normal profit. Then we will see your TC moving further away from TR to the point that we maximize our total revenue. Then it goes back to be equal, then to be above. So this is how marks are allocated. 1 mark for the labeling of axis, 1 mark for the labeling on axis. And then if you labeling of axis means the cost and revenues and the quantity. Labeling on axis, we are putting numbers in there. Correct TC, you see is there, and then correct TR, there is the indication of the point where TR equal to TC, that these are points, then you get 1 mark. Then you explain the graph for focus. Then let's check. All points where total revenues is above the total cost TC, the firm is making economic profit because TR is more than TC. At all points where total cost TC is above total revenues, the firm is making economic loss. The graph between the gap between TC and TR represents the profit. So profit is maximized where the gap between TR and TC are the greatest. So when TC further away from TR, then that is regarded to be a profit maximization. That gives you 8 marks. Then we continue. Evaluate the success of commission policy action in achieving its objective. Then let's check it's been successful. Provides consumers with the competitive prices and the variety of products. E.g., MTN and Vodacom, they are competing, so we get different prices. DSTV has been found guilty of price fixing and fined 180 million by a commission. And then Tiger Brands was fined about 8 million for collusion in the mining industry. South African banks face market fines for price fixing and collusion. Remember, they colluded by fixing the exchange rate. And then fruits and vegetable producer fined for price fixing and collusion. We continue with the success. And then encourage South Africans to participate in the world market and access foreign competition or accept foreign competition. Then also it has enabled small SMME, small micro and medium enterprises to participate in the economy by fighting power abuse by monopolies and oligopolies. Enabled previous disadvantaged groups to increase their ownership in the business sector. Then we continue with the same question. Various anti-competitive practices have been investigated with positive outcome. Currently, several big insurance companies in South Africa are under investigation over being alleged to fixing premiums. And then we check the failure still on this one. Has not been successful. Fines imposed on firms that have been found guilty have been too lenient. Then that has led to them continuing by being involved in anti-competitive practices. It has failed to protect consumers over aggressive prices, which has hampered economic growth and development over the past years. State-owned monopolies remain as the main suppliers of some products such as electricity, which has contributed to high level of productive and allocative inefficiency. And then briefly discuss the demand curve for ESCOM as a monopoly without drawing graphs. 8 marks. This is the middle order. So we know the demand curve for the ESCOM. ESCOM is faced by the downward sloping demand curve, which sloped from the top left to the bottom right. Then also it is a steep or relatively inelastic, indicating that consumers are less sensitive to the change in price because the firm is the only supplier of a unique product. So they buy from the monopoly or go without the product because they don't have perfect substitutes or they don't have alternative product that can replace electricity. The increase in or decrease in price does not cause much change in quantity demanded in ESCOM because the firm is the only producer of the product without any perfect substitute. Consumers demand electricity from ESCOM or go without the product because it does not have any competitor or provide for alternating. Briefly explain reasons for the cost-benefit analysis. CPA is used in the public sector project as there are no market signals to guide decision-making, such as construction of roads and bridges, to identify the level benefits and costs of the project before informed decisions are made. To ensure economic efficiency in resource allocation, include a wider social impact and includes externalities under an environmental effect in the decision-making process to estimate the effect of investment on the social welfare as well as the environment, to bring greater objectivity to decision-making to avoid subjectivity. And then we continue. 8 marks question under economic issues. Here you had the question, with the aid of net level graph, discuss demand pull inflation. We know that we said demand pull inflation occurs when aggregate demand increases further than aggregate supply. We can say the demand increases from 80 to 81, but supply remains at AS. That is pushing prices up. You see the price has increased to P1. And then we have new point, which is E1. There were 4 marks for the graph. Let's look at the explanation. Demand pull inflation occurs when aggregate demand increases faster than aggregate supply. Yes, the graph illustrates an increase in aggregate demand from 80 to 81, and a single aggregate supply remains. As the aggregate demand increases to 81, the what we call the price level and the production output will also increase until full employment is reached. The initial increase in the demand will have positive influence on production, employment, and income. But when full capacity has been reached, further increase in demand will lead to increase in prices, which is known as the demand pull inflation. We continue. Critically discuss challenges of many countries face in reducing production of hazardous waste. Remember, we must know hazardous waste before you answer. This is a higher order question. Producing goods in modern economies which automatically lead to chemical waste as byproduct, which means that hazardous waste could only be produced if production decreases. Could only be reduced if production decreases, which would contribute to more unemployment. Then exporting hazardous waste to developing countries at a price, this gives them an opportunity to get rid of excess waste. And then because many African countries like Ivory Coast allows this activity as a source of income, this keeps the volume of hazardous waste at the high level in African countries. And then we continue with the same question. Increasing economic activity such as manufacturing and agricultural production that exceed the measures used by the government to restrict dispose hazardous waste. Then we continue. Generating hazardous waste is also found in household, although on a much smaller scale, such as leftover paint. Then we continue. The big challenge remains to change the mindset of people by reducing household, by educating household to reduce the usage of products that are regarded as hazardous waste, like e-waste, where computers are sold in developing countries that should have been hazardous waste in other countries. Recycling remains as a challenge, which increases the disposal of solid waste into the maximum of 2 marks for mere listing. How can the market be a solution to the current environmental problem in South Africa? That's a high order question. The market can recycle or reuse the used material to prevent disposing it into the environment. Adapting to the green energy can be a solution because there will be less or no industries that burn fossil fuels. Sustainable development can be achieved if the market uses both renewable and non-renewable resources in a sustainable manner to prevent exploitation or over-exploitation. Using indigenous methods to do farming can reduce pollution caused by pesticides. Then we continue to evaluate the success of indigenous knowledge system to promote tourism in South Africa. You must know indigenous knowledge first in this situation. So it's been successful by offering unique attractions and encourage foreign tourists to learn about South Africa's indigenous culture, history, and cultural diversity. Giving tourists opportunity to experience the indigenous culture, e.g. cultural villages such as Shangana in Mpumalanga and Basotho in Free State. And then offering an inexpensive cultural tour based on indigenous knowledge. Then we continue with the same question. Encouraging government to create policies to protect, develop, and promote indigenous knowledge systems within the country, e.g. medicine, arts, and craft. Expanding the experiences of tourists in township by visiting places such as Soweto, where they can eat and drink indigenous food and drinks. That is 8 marks. Then we continue, evaluate the success, we still continue. Displaying African art and culture in the global, into the entire world. The music, such as music, National Art Festival held in Grahamstown caters for this. Then that is 1 mark because an example. Developing sites of cultural and historical importance such as Robben Island. Then that was 8 marks all in all. Let's check. Then we move to section C. I will be slightly quick because there's not enough time. So we have here essay structure. As we know, introduction is 2 marks. You define the concept or describe the concept, and then we go further to the what we call the body of an essay, where now we have main part and additional part. Under main part is 26 marks. That's why you discuss your content in detail with the listing of subheadings and write in form. Remember, your subheadings and example will give you maximum of 8 marks, and then content knowledge will be 18 marks. That will give you 26 marks. And then we have additional part whereby you come across the new question again, which is at the higher order, where you will have to evaluate or critical analyze whatever that will be given to you. We'll have an example here. And then a conclusion, that's a higher order response that is required from you, whereby you sum up your essay without repeating anything that have been mentioned, either in your main part or additional part. Remember, your conclusion can be a part of both main and additional part, or can be a part of only main part or part of only additional part, but must be the higher order response. Is 2 marks, which give you 40 marks. So essay must be arranged in point form, as we show you principles of writing an essay. Use point form rather than a paragraph, and also use subheadings. Follow IMAX structure so that you can always remember introduction, main part, additional part, as well as conclusion. Remember, ages to 18 principle, whereby 8 marks is for lower order, which is the listing of facts and what we call listing of points, as well as examples, as well as, and also 18 marks is for content delivery or discussion. Remember, content delivery is 18 marks. Then we continue with the principle. Be aware of that listing on the additional part will give you only 2 marks maximum, and then ensure that the responses you provide are enough to score maximum marks. And then we continue. Arrange your essay in point form like indicated before, and then your conclusion should not have any repetition. Should be a part of either what we call it additional part or main part, and must not repeat anything from your introduction, body, or additional part. Essay conclusion must be the higher order. And then here we will show you a list of essays here for microeconomics. Discuss in detail 3 equilibrium position for the firm under perfect market. Discuss monopoly in detail with the graph, where you discuss equilibrium positions or discuss characteristics of market structure. Examine oligopoly in detail. Compare and contrast 2 market structures, which can be perfect market to monopoly, monopoly to monopolistic, etc. And then discuss in detail how the following factors can lead to misallocation of resources in the market. Those are the reasons for market failure, but they are not assessed like this. They are assessed as factors that can lead to misallocation of resources in the market. Discuss in detail state intervention as a consequence of market failure, with or without graphs. So it will depend with the examiner here if you must draw graphs or not. And then we continue with the economic issues. It says discuss in detail consequences of inflation, and then discussing detail measures to combat inflation, or which can be demand pull or cost push. Examine in detail effects of tourism. Examine in detail benefits of tourism. Discuss in detail how the government can ensure sustainable development, and then discuss in detail the following problems as the international measures taken to ensure sustainable development. Here you are provided one example. Discuss in detail factors that can lead to misallocation of resources. Those are the reasons for the market failure. Be aware of this question coming in this fashion before you make mistake as you answer. Additional part can be examine the impact of income inequality in the economy. So here we start, we define the what we call the market failure. So market failure occurs when the market is unable to achieve the efficient allocation of scarce resources and is therefore unable to achieve the best available outcome. Market failure occurs when the market misallocate resources resulting to undersupply or oversupply of goods and services. That is 2 marks. Those are two definitions clustered together. And then we have our missing markets as reasons in our body. Remember, we talk about missing markets can only form under certain conditions, and when these conditions are absent, markets struggle to exist. And then also public goods are not provided by the market mechanism because producers cannot withhold the goods for non-payment. And since there is often no way of measuring how much person consumes, there is no basis to establish a market price. Then merit goods are those goods that are highly desirable for the general welfare of people and are often not highly rated by the market. If people have to pay market prices for them, relatively little will be consumed. Then we continue. Missing markets continues. And then there are those goods like cigarettes and alcohol which are overconsumed in the market, which are regarded as demerit goods. Government can ban their consumption or reduce by means of taxation, such as excise duties, and by providing information about their harmful side or effects in the packaging. Producers produce goods in order to make profit, hence they produce only goods which they can earn profit, hence they fail to produce enough. And then public goods are consumed by the community and no one can be excluded from consuming them. So those are community goods. And then as a result of this non-excludability, the private sector is usually unwilling to provide these public goods and services. And then we continue with imperfect information, lack of information. And then here, consumers work and consumers work as entrepreneurs do not always have necessary information at their disposal to make informed decisions. And then consumers do not have perfect information through advances in technology, increase in the amount of information to which people have access. And then workers may be unaware of job opportunities outside their current employment. Then you continue with the lack of information or imperfect information. Entrepreneurs may lack information about the cost availability and productivity of some factors of production and may be operating on the basis of incorrect information. Incomplete information about production techniques, cost, production needs and wants of household, etc., means that factors of production are employed without answering the 3 basic questions of the economy. Producers do not know exactly what the demand will be and thus cannot adjust their supply to be more efficient because they lack basic information. Immobility of factors of production. And then in this situation, you refer to labor may take time to move into new occupation and geographically to meet changes of consumer demand. And then also physical capital, e.g. factory building, telephone lines, bridges, etc., are not movable at will. This capital lasts for years but cannot be moved to the place where it's highly needed. And then technical applications change production methods, but it takes time for most industries to adjust with greater technical changes. And then we continue with immobility. Markets may not respond to change in consumer demand if resources cannot easily be reallocated. This means that business will not use factors of production at the optimal level or maximum. Workers are reluctant to change to another job. The worker has to give notice. This means that the supply of labor will not always meet the demand for labor. Therefore, markets will fail. We continue. And imperfect income distribution and wealth. Market system is neutral on issues of income distribution. And then discrimination distort earnings for women and minority group, disabled person and people, and people subject to illness and incapacity. The market produces goods and services only for those who can afford. And this leads to some people having too many goods while others have few goods. And then if initial distribution of income is unequal, the final income distribution will also be unequal. For this reason, it often argued that the market failed. And then we continue. Imperfect competition. In the market economies, competition is often impaired by power of certain producers to prevent new business from entering the market because of barriers to entry. Power often lies with greater extent with producers than with consumers, and this leads to inefficient allocation of resources in the market. Most businesses operate under conditions of imperfect competition that allow producers to restrict output, raise prices, and produce where the price exceeds the marginal cost. And then imperfect market does not allow price negotiations. And then we continue. Externalities. Externalities are the effect of actions of one party on another parties who was not involved in initial transaction. They cause market mechanism to allocate resources inefficiently because the market price does not reflect the full cost benefits of the economic activities. The market price only reflects the private cost, and the private benefit does not include the cost, which include both private cost and what we call the external cost. Negative externalities, these are caused to third parties that are not included in the market price, e.g. pollution. And then the cost of negative externalities such as ill health are not paid by the producer. Then these harmful goods are often overproduced in the economy, which is not socially desired. And then we continue towards the end of the lesson. The positive externalities, these are benefits that are enjoyed by the third party that were not included in the initial transaction. Then they include education and health. And then market price fail when goods with positive externalities are often underproduced, and the government steps in to produce them because of the shortfall. And then we continue. We have additional partner. The question, we answer the question, a high level of economic inequality means that a high level of poverty in the economy. And then poverty is associated with increased crime, poor public health, which places burden on the economy and the government. Then also, in the face of increase in food prices and lower income support from pro-growth government policies decline. Then also we continue, wealthy citizens maintain the disproportionate political power compared to poor citizens, which encourage the development of inefficient tax structures and then skewed in favor of the wealthy people. And then we continue with additional part. Unequal income distribution increase political instability, which threaten property rights, increase the risk of the state rejected contracts, and discourages capital accumulation within the economy. A widening rich-poor gap tends to increase the rate of rent-seeking and predatory market behaviors that hinder economic growth. Growth is suppressed in the economically unequal societies by decreasing availability of investments and human capital. And then that is for 10 marks. And then your conclusion should be the higher order. So this one examples of conclusion that you can come across. Market inefficiencies can result to government intervention to produce goods and services that are undersupplied in the market as they are deemed to be important for the social well-being. That is 10 marks. It gives you 40 marks for an essay. And then remember, conclusion is 2 marks, and then you get 40 marks for an essay. So let me correct this one. The maximum here is 2 marks. And then you have your 40 marks for your entire essay because it's your introduction, main part, additional part, and conclusion. Remember, it's 2, it's 26, it's 10, 2, then equals to 40 all in all. This is the conclusion of your essay. After all, I thank you, and I believe we will meet again on the next session where we'll be continuing with our